Our first guest today is he's had 12 years in the NFL as a quarterback, and you were talking about the zip. He had such a good arm that you could hear the ball whistle as it came into him.
Yeah, and he's just messing around. Like, I was like, how much pep are you putting on that? He's like, not much. And I'm like, that ball is hissing from the time it leaves his hand. You usually hear it accelerate, like you hear this was coming out of his hand like this. You can hear it from the time it left his hand. So it was like you could almost like in a vacuum, like if you're playing in like an indoor place, when you catch a ball from a quarterback, you almost hear it when you have to turn your head. It gets that loud.
That's great.
His was quite loud.
All right, let's go to the Toms River Auto Group Studio Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room former NFL quarterback Tony Banks. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me, fellas.
So did you try, when you threw the ball to Dave Clemick, did you try to throw it through his chest?
I was still a little older then, so it wasn't what it used to be. But yeah, I still got a little zip.
You're a Sparty. You played at Michigan State. Of course, you were a second-round pick in the NFL draft, number 42 overall. What was it like making the transition from Michigan State to the NFL? How was that for you?
Well, I got to play my senior year for Nick Saban, so at least schematically and football IQ-wise, I was ready to make that jump, and that had been a goal of mine. I mean, that's why I chose Michigan State. They were letting me focus on football as opposed to school, which is what I wanted to do at the time. So it suited both parties at the time.
Hey, Tony, we're looking at your, of course, looking at your bio and everything. You played baseball. You were in the Twins organization. What sport did you like better, football or baseball?
I always loved football and basketball better than baseball. Baseball just came easy to me. Baseball is the sport I played the most growing up. I didn't play football until my junior year in high school, and basketball I played pretty much throughout my whole childhood too. But baseball, they offered me that money, and I took it, and I was miserable.
Show me the money. Tony, the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Major League Baseball. We got a team here that just won't quit. Talk about, like, the intestinal fortitude you must have, like, when you get down and you got to come back and you do it, how cool that is.
Oh, no doubt. And it takes a strong core group of guys to keep guys focused, especially in a long season like baseball. Bryce Harper coming back and fighting through that injury and, the rehab and all that. He seems like, he's got that mental fortitude to be able to keep guys kind of in line and keep their eyes on the prize.
We were just commenting before you got on the air with us that Philadelphia right now, we have two very special athletes, Bryce Harper and Jalen Hurts. Bryce Harper for the Phillies, Jalen Hurts from the Eagles. He's on his way. I mean, people doubted him last year. Remember, Dave, going into the season, is he going to be the starter? What kind of season? He silenced all his critics, Tony. You kind of similar. You were in the second round pick. I think he was Jalen Hurts was 53 overall. You were 42. But what were the expectations for you coming out of college?
There were none, really. I was the first quarterback drafted in 1996. But they had just signed Steve Walsh to a big contract. Mark Rippon was on the roster. So they planned on developing me and getting me acclimated to the NFL game for at least a year or two. But Steve Walsh wasn't very good, and I had a great preseason. And then by, I think, week 4 is when I made my first start and set a bunch of rookie records back when, throwing for 200 yards a game was a lot. Now that's nothing. So it was similar in ways. But, that offense in Philly is really catered to Jalen Hurts. And I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan, even before he started silencing critics. And I'll tell you why. Because winning a national championship using his legs in Alabama, it's really difficult for guys to win at that level, at that position, doing it that way, and then to go back to the drawing board and say, I need to improve in certain areas. And he just went and focused on that and really improved his last year in college and made himself into a quality NFL quarterback and then kept plugging away. And now he's one of the top QBs in the game. It's fun to watch.
We're talking with longtime NFL quarterback Tony Banks. Tony, you go to Baltimore, you win a Super Bowl, you get yourself a ring. How hard is it to go in the camp the next year after winning? I mean, I know the Eagles didn't win last year, but it's very hard to get back to the Super Bowl. How hard is it for this team in your opinion, to keep focused to get back to where they want to be, and that would be winning the Super Bowl?
Man, with that O&D line they have, I mean, they're going to be right there in the thick of things regardless. They got a lot of depth. They got a lot of really good players. And when you can control the line of scrimmage and have a quarterback that makes good decisions and have some speed on the outside, I mean, it's going to be interesting. If anybody can get back to where they were last year, it's going to be the Eagles. I think they're the favorites to win the NFC East. And we're going to see here coming up pretty soon. They got the Patriots, I think, first week, right?
4:25 next Sunday, yes.
So, and Tony, I miss you, buddy. I really did. He's one of the guys we hung out in Japan on a military morale tour for Armed Forces Entertainment. And I fell in love with this guy. Like, I was like, he would have been my roommate in college. Like, if we met each other back then, we just vibed on so many different levels. I didn't want to talk to him ahead of this because I wanted the conversation to be kind of like
real,
fresh, we haven't talked to each other. Yeah. But we text each other about stuff all the time. Tony, I was thinking about Jalen Hurts and like how he's just a Swiss Army knife. Like you nailed it, because it's what I said. He could run it. He learned to run. He learned to pass. And I know one of the other coaches that said, he can do anything. You could just mold him to the offense. That's rare. And I just heard you kind of agree with that, but what do you think Jalen Hurts' best attribute is?
I think it's his work ethic, man. I know in my day, a lot of black quarterbacks were accused of not putting in the work and studying in the film room and being the first to get into the building and the last one to leave. But he's definitely not that guy. His leadership qualities just jump off the table. So he's really a well-rounded athlete, let alone quarterback. So, but I still think his legs are what's going to make him unique still. His ability to extend plays. And when you can do that in the NFL, you know how hard it is to cover these NFL receivers. I mean, these guys, you're lucky to get anywhere near for 3 seconds. If you're able to buy another second or two, that's when the big plays happen. And that's why he's so much fun to watch, because he can stay on script, and then when he gets off script, he's even more dangerous.
We're talking with longtime NFL, 12-year NFL veteran, quarterback Tony Banks. Tony, the only thing we worry about with Jalen Hurts, we got to limit the hits. You took some hits, and as a quarterback, you got to be limber. You don't want your arm. You don't want to be taking extra shots. So when you're running the ball, how hard is it in your mind to just like say to yourself, get out of bounds, don't take a hit? As a competitor, you want that extra yard.
Yeah. It took me to my third year in the NFL before I ran out of bounds. So, and it was a big shot by a safety from the Vikings and separated my throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
So that ended up being my worst season of my career. Didn't get traded after that, trying to play through that. So there is a fine line, but Jalen really does a good job of not getting hit square. A lot of good backs are like that too, where they can, get skinny when they have to, get out of bounds, slide. So he's pretty smart. As much as he runs, he's smart about it. But you don't want to take away a player's like that improvisational ability. You want him to be able to make those plays, but also make sure he's smart about it. So, the more reps and the more games he plays, the smarter he's going to get about those things.
That's what I think. So after this season, when he's getting paid now pretty well, is that going to affect? Do you think that's going to affect his kind of his expectations? Sometimes it's kind of cool to be the dark horse and kind of like just show up and prove everybody wrong all the time. Does that change after a year where now everyone expects him to be? I mean, besides Patrick Mahomes, he's probably got
because like you said, last year going into the season, it was a question mark.
Right.
Now we know what we have. Are those expectations a lot higher this year, Tony?
Well, they are from outside of the building, I'm sure, but I think the Eagles' expectations of themselves is to be one game better than they were last year. And I think for some quarterbacks, some players, when you get the money and now that he's a Pro Bowler and everybody expects him to show up and show out, I think some players it can affect them. But Jalen's got strong faith. He's like I said, his leadership qualities just jump off the page. Anytime I hear him speak, he's a really humble guy. And, so I don't think it's going to affect him that much. I don't think his approach is going to change. And he's just a tireless worker. And when you put in that work and with a solid offense and offensive mind behind him, I think sky's the limit. I think he's going to have an even better year statistically. And And I don't even know if the Eagles need him to do that, but it means a lot to him. Like, I think football and winning is first and foremost. So I talk about sometimes when I do these interviews about a guy like Tom Brady. Like, so when I was coming up, people were telling me, no way you can be a quarterback in the NFL. No way you can do this. And then no way you're going to be a starter. So when I accomplished those things, it was almost like I had arrived. Right. Whereas a guy like Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, guys like Russell Wilson, guys like Peyton Manning, those guys don't wake up like I'm going to be a starter. They wake up like I'm going to be a winner. So
that's pretty cool.
There's a big difference there from guys like me to guys like, physical ability is one thing. If it was about physical ability and throwing a spiral, I'd still be playing at 50.
Tony, Dave, let me ask you this a question, because you guys both played in the NFL. Is it different for some guys? Some guys, it's just enough to make it to the NFL. But then, like Tony just said, you want to be not just playing, you want to be great, and you want to win all the time. Do a lot of guys get to the NFL and say, I've accomplished my goal, I guess? I
don't even know if for me, I didn't realize that until I was able to, when I was done playing and able to kind of reflect back on my career and why a guy with my physical ability didn't have the success that I thought I was going to have. I threw for a bunch of yards and started a bunch of games, but it wasn't like when you think about Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees, some of the GOATs at that position, they're not physically
Joe Montana.
Other guys.
Look at Joe Montana. I mean, he's
Joe Montana. Yeah, there's the list goes on, and it's about those guys waking up with just the desire to win by any means necessary. When I work out quarterbacks and quarterbacks throw an ugly, accurate ball, it's like, that's Peyton Manning ball right there. Like, Peyton Manning didn't throw a pretty ball.
His ball does wobble. It does. Yeah. It always did.
Like Billy Kilmer?
He's got a wobbly ball.
Yeah, but so some quarterbacks are just flat out winners, right? They just win.
Some people just in general, whether it be athletes or CEOs of major corporations, some guys are just, have that innate ability that refuse to lose. It's not even maybe about, winning, just refuse to lose.
Right.
Like they talk about Jordan's will to win at everything. So it's no secret why he was the greatest of all time.
It's funny, like I heard this about Jalen Hurts. Somebody sat near him on the plane going to like California or whatever, and they said, this is like in June or July. Like he was watching film the entire flight. They were just kind of like, it's Jalen Hurts.
He's squared away.
And he was watching film for 4 or 5 hours just the whole time and breaking down film. And that's just like what he did on his vacation.
Well, he was, Tony, and Dave, he was interviewed a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago at Sports Illustrated, and they said, does football define you? He said, no, football is everything to me. Like other people try to say football is not the only thing about me, but he said, no, football is my life.
Mm. Well, I think you nailed it, Tony, when you said about his faith too. And me and you talk about it all the time too.
Well,
but
faith
like,
is important.
Yeah, so those guys you could trust because where they prioritize, and you could see the guys in the league that have been successful have also been, in my opinion, and in my team, the guys with the most devout Christians. To be honest, that's what I saw.
Dave, I played junior college, and Tony, I played at Lees McRae Junior College in Banner Oak, North Carolina. Before every game,
I was a JUCO guy too.
What's that?
Yeah, he was a JUCO
guy too.
Yeah, we prayed. I mean, we do the Lord's Prayer before every game.
Yeah, for sure.
Jalen, I've heard from his coach, Chip Smith, trained him before the NFL Combine, and he goes, "You're gonna love this guy. You're Philadelphia. You just got this." He said before when we just got him, and I wasn't sure because I really liked. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna Carson Wentz. I love Carson Wentz.
Yeah, right. But he just.
But when it came time to show, he was a kind of a Bible thumping guy. When it came time when Jalen Hurts outplayed him, he didn't act like a Christian anymore.
Right.
Like he didn't. He changed.
Right. Yeah, that's true too. That's a good observation.
And that was. And that's what Coach Vermeil, his criticism of Carson Wentz was also that he's thumping the Bible, but he didn't.
So, Tony, let me ask you this question. Then, you were a starter, you were a backup. Is there animosity? Is there like in the NFL? Are you there to you're fighting for your food basically? You put food on your table. What's it like when you either beat a guy out or you got somebody chasing you on your heels, like the relationship?
Well, I finished my career in Houston. That was my only time really as a backup. And fortunately, David Carr was, the number one pick that year, and I didn't view myself as a backup. But David was such a good kid, great family man, strong Christian kid. Really had some great characteristics, so it wasn't hard, for me. But I never, because I had some physical gifts, I never felt threatened by anybody,
Right.
So in our Super Bowl year, when I ended up losing my job in midseason, I was not a great backup. I was bitter.
Yeah.
I still don't wear that Super Bowl ring.
I asked
He
him,
just asked
I
you that.
just asked Dave before he brought you. I said, "Does Tony wear his ring?" He said no.
No, because then you got to go through the questions. Oh, you won a Super Bowl. Oh, well, what position did you play? Oh, I thought Trent Dilfer. Well, I was like, all right, I ain't gonna deal with that. So yeah, Trent was a great backup to me. I just got my biggest contract before that year after the '99 season, and Trent was an awesome backup. But then when the tables were turned, I didn't think. I mean, we went 5-1, and then we lost 2 games in a row. Our offense wasn't very good at the time, so I didn't think I deserved to be demoted. But that's what it was, and I was still, what was I, like 28, I think, at the time. So I still felt I had a lot of football left. And honestly, Trent wasn't a very physical, gifted quarterback. So watching him in practice was frustrating. And they changed the offense, started running it a lot more. And that was really what we needed. Now that I can go reflect, like, we wouldn't have won the Super Bowl with me because they let me audible at the line of scrimmage. They gave me a lot of freedom. So if I ever saw something, I was going to a pass. Trent would audible to a run. And I ain't never going to do that.
I laugh because I'm like, where do you see how honest this guy's going to be?
Who audibles to a run?
Right.
Yeah.
Tony, I got to tell you, man, it's great having you on. What do you think about, you say that you think the Eagles are going to do well. What do you, can you make it like a prediction? How well do you think they're going to do this year?
Man, me being a Hurts fan and just really love that offense, and it's so much fun to watch. And that D-line you guys have, I mean, I won't go further than winning the NFC East, but that gets you, I think you guys will be home field advantage again. And then, then anything can happen. You stay healthy and keep winning the line of scrimmage. You got a chance until you run up maybe against Mahomes again.
Yeah, right.
But, they got a bunch of young receivers this year. That's the problem when you do win a lot of games. Everybody else wants your players. So it's hard to keep them. And that's what the Chiefs keep going through. That's what, you guys have done a really good job of keeping the core there, but I don't know how long you're going to be able to do that.
They keep coming after you more ways than one.
They're all going to break up for the money. But for now, we kept everybody together. I actually worked with a little bit with James Bradbury, too, before this. And he was a smaller school guy that went in the second round.
Yeah.
And he plays with a big chip on his shoulder, defensively, offensively. I'm glad you talked about the D-line because they're special, man.
All right, listen, Tony, unfortunately, we got to run. But listen, man, we really appreciate you taking time Saturday morning to talk with us here in the locker room, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Tony, love you. I'll call you after.
All right, love you too, Dave. All right, man.
All right, there he is, former NFL quarterback Tony Banks on the Toms River Auto Group Sports Hotline.